hello, Licia.
Good morning, Andrew. How are you today?
Hello, I'm Andrew Giovinazzi, the other option with Licia Leslie,
I like
queen
that.
of the candles, the Duchess of Doge, our chart lady
Analyst.
extraordinaire, I guess.
Analyst is good.
Our Candelera, candle. Welcome everybody to OP Live this morning. So what do we, I guess we should just start with some numbers and the week, right, Licia? What do you think's going, what do you think? What do you think about our jobs number? And maybe you could share, we can start basically just sharing with some of the early action on the non-farm payroll number. I'm just pulling it up here in my.
Well, not a huge move. From what I saw, SPY was down about 30 cents. And then since the number we're up a buck, not
Okay.
even 80 cents.
Okay. So it's almost like for a while, I thought we were in the Goldilocks where like every economic report was good. I guess that's a bull market, but this one seems like the payroll number came in good, solid after, and that's probably a little result because we had the hurricane the last time, so probably messed with jobs and everything in the South, and some of all that activity flowed back in the November number. And,
right there, that was the number that was only 12,000. Was that last time?
I think so.
12,000, lowest I've ever seen. Crazy.
Yeah. And now I'm looking at a 227 or so. So not too bad. Definitely a better number. And I think part of what's going on right now, when you look at it, is like, what's the next catalyst to bring us to above 6,100? Remember, so we had talked around the election, like, okay, 6,000. Everybody's like, woo, we had the election. It all kind of went okay. Although they're counting votes still in some places, which is
insane,
extraordinary, and absolutely ridiculous. Do you remember the hanging chads? Like, I'm dating myself in 2000.
No.
And then after that, Florida basically fixed their whole election system. Like, and so Florida counts, a huge state, counts all their votes in, I don't know, 3 hours after the election. Like, boom, it's like all done.
Right.
And they're like, a state like California can't count their votes, and it takes a month.
Well, it's like the more technology we have, the slower it is.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So anyway, apparently none of the results are going to change. Some House seats changed. I don't think, from a political point of view, it hasn't really done much from a market point of view. But as of right now, I think employment, higher employment, the market's going to want it. Now, is that going to be a recipe for lowering rates?
Well, that's what I was just going to take you to.
Let's why don't we just oh, good, Licia's on her chart, so that's what I want to see. So that's okay, cool.
From what I understand, they're already talking about a high probability, right, on the CME. I haven't looked at it, but the probability of them lowering rates is very high right now, isn't it?
You know what? I have to be honest. I'm pretty terrible. I don't really look at that. I just look at the.
It's coming up too, right? When's the meeting? Oh, here, 12 days. It's right at the top of their.
Oh, there we go.
Right at the top of their website. Here we go. 70%, Andrew.
Wow, which is kind of like, and then my next question is, why? Why? Why are they doing that? It's it kind of boggles my imagination just a little bit. But
yeah.
Anyway,
I don't get it. I honestly, you and I are on the same page when it comes to that.
Yeah, I like, we have a growing economy. The government's spending a ton of money. Well, the bond market's already told us, right? So if we look at how's TLT reacting to this?
Well, first, let me point out SPX.
Okay.
See the top of my pitchfork here. We're right at the top of my pitchfork. We could be getting a little toppy, but I did add a second one. So we do blow through there. We have room to move higher.
So we're we're on a little bit of an inflection then.
We could be. We could be.
Like, again, as a trader, I'm sitting on some calendars for next week, and I'm like, well, I feel a little better about them, maybe.
Yeah.
I just thought no matter what the number was, they were going to kind of like it anyway, but that's because we're in a bull market, So I figured
that's because also Santa Claus rally.
Oh, that's right. I don't have my hat on. I did wear a jacket though. I did wear a jacket for our dollar shots later today
and you're looking really good there, Andrew.
About as dapper
you're making me feel underdressed.
You do not look underdressed. You do not look underdressed. Nobody is going to be saying that in the comments, trust me. So, okay, let's talk TLT right now. So we do have a little bit of a bounce all of a sudden.
Yes, we do. We do. TLT cleared these highs here around 93, and looks to me like it wants to try to trade 95 very soon. And above there would be 96.25. But yeah, TLT, the bond vigilantes may be okay with the rate change. I don't know. We'll see, I guess. 12 days.
Do you think that could be any of the noise coming out of Washington about maybe taking some spending cuts serious? Well, also there's been that rash of spending, here, like this mad dash till the end of the Biden presidency. And now, we're going to see, right? Everybody's saying there's going to be this DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency,
right,
which is pretty amazing when you just hear those four words together, Department of Government Efficiency. Like said nobody ever.
Right. It could be happen. A new, is it possible it's a new era of responsibility from our governments? I mean, it'd be, Argentina's been able to.
They've been able to do it. It is possible if somebody cares. I think the strongest signal is if bond prices are going up and yields are going down, that's a good signal. I think that's probably what we're looking for right now. You can have growth with lower interest rates, maybe not down to 2%. Those days probably are gone for a long time, but
well, I think that they need to stop meddling and let the market decide, right?
Yes, I agree.
The Fed needs to step back and let the market breathe. They just don't give it enough time, in my opinion, to work it out naturally.
They're trying to they spend a lot of time trying to steer the tanker, with tugboats, right? Constantly pushing it, pulling it.
Exactly.
All this kind of crap.
Exactly. Not a good idea.
Probably too much. So again, in my view, and I agree with you, but we're kind of simpatico on this subject, that the less they do, probably the better. Especially when you look at U.S. equities relative to global equities. I mean, if you're an equity investor, I mean, where are you going to go? Now there could be some other countries that are starting to move. Like if you look at some Argentina stocks this year, like they've done pretty good. Just speaking of this, there's always potential, South America and all that stuff, but and we heard a lot of noise from the BRICS, but ultimately it hasn't created a lot of noise in those global equities. But that could change. But at least today we have a decent, what I would say a decent number, and the market's reacting pretty good to it. I think we have Mark kind of in the back. If we could, there he is.
Well, there he is.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. So we've got a lot, thanks for little technical issues this morning. Apparently was freezing up a little bit, but I think we're good now. And I've got a few things to hit on today that I wanted to talk about, because I think we've got into the end of the year a really incredible trading opportunity. And you guys were kind of alluding to it in the first 15 minutes without kind of hammering people on the head with it. And that is, we've got this meeting of, what is a potential. What I want to start with, part one, we've got two pieces that are kind of meeting together that are going to produce, I think, an incredible opportunity here in the next 3 weeks. And I'm going to kind of present those two ideas, and then we're going to talk about how we're going to do with it, what we're going to do with it. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about big money flow as well, and how in this environment it's especially valuable. And then Andrew's going to talk about that trend of lower vol and in big cat, talk about that trend that I'm kind of hitting on here in his trading vehicle. But I want to start with, is this a Santa Claus rally squared? And what do I mean by that? Well, we all know that toward the end of the year, especially in an up year, the stock market goes up. But then we've got this squaring effect of this, excitement around the new administration. And you guys were talking about Doge. You guys were talking about this. What we're seeing is, and I know listeners at home, viewers at home, I'm sure you're seeing this. The market just seems to go up every single day, and that's from kind of this what they'll call the Trump trade. Now imagine adding the Trump trade, folks, to a Santa Claus rally. It's Santa Claus squared. And what does that look like? What kind of results do you think the S&P 500 could do into the end of the year with the Trump trade and Santa? So imagine Santa, but he's super, 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 super spray tanned. Imagine that. Imagine what kind of returns we could see out of the stock market into the end of the year. All right. So there's one of, I think, the phenomenon that we're seeing. At the same time, what have you folks noticed about the change in overall volatility in the last couple of weeks? Leading the election, all we saw, right, was the VIX kind of stubbornly hanging out around 17. Since then, and I'll share my screen and you guys can take a look at this. Since then, I mean, take a look at this. Here's the day of the election. Here's the VIX. We got a little bit of a pop on the 20th, but man, we saw VIX get below 13 on the 4th. It's probably going to break 13 today, and I think we'll close below 13 on the 6th today. And so you have this major market rally merged with incredibly the lowest implied volatility. And folks, when you look at VIX, what I want you to think about is VIX is the cost of buying options. It is the cost of buying options. So we have the cost of buying options, the cheapest that we've seen in a while. And I don't know why I'm freezing up, folks. I'm sorry. Is my sound freezing up, or is it just my video?
The sound's good. I think it's just your video,
right,
Mark.
Good. All right, then that's fine. All right. So we've got the cost of options just plummeting. And we have a Santa Claus rally squared. Where does that take us? What opportunity does that present us? And we were kind of brainstorming around this earlier in the week. And Andrew, in all of his wisdom, said, you know what I'm looking at is I'm looking at buying some cheap options that are cheap two ways. All right. And we're going to talk about cheap two ways in a little bit. But they're cheap because the implied volatility is low, but they're also cheap because they don't cost a lot. So I'm looking at buying some dollar options and taking a shot on them. And I said, wait. What did you just say, Andrew? He said, I'm looking for some options that cost about $1. And I'm going to take a shot on them. I said, Andrew, are you buying dollar shots? And so what we are doing today in Delta Strike, all right, and I'm going to talk about what Delta Strike here is in a second. In Delta Strike, which is my flagship service, is I'm having Andrew, I'm having Licia, I'm having Hans Albrecht, who's here, been here a couple of times, and I'm having Frank Gregory, and we're going to take turns coming up with an option that costs less than $2 that we think could go up more than 100% by the end of the year. And the reason why we believe that is because of this collision course that I just laid out of the Santa Claus rally squared with the cost of options being incredibly cheap. It creates it's the perfect storm for buying inexpensive options on mega caps. And so that is what we're doing in Delta Strike. So now what is Delta Strike? Delta Strike is my service where I am trading with the big banks. Listen, I know how to buy the best option out there. If Licia says, and she can do this herself, but let's just say she was interested. Licia said to me, Mark, I want to buy a call in Apple that, and I think it's going to go here in the next 20 days. I can with certainty find the best option that she should buy. And that is from years staring at option screens. All right.
We won't say how many years.
Do the same thing, and Andrew can do the same thing. But this is like my kind of one of my favorite things to do. Right. I stare at screens all day. And so I can pick out what is the best option to buy. Big banks don't work that way. Big banks care about where can I get what I want to get done. So there's a difference between me buying 10 calls and Bank of America buying 100,000 calls. Bank of America just needs to get it done, and they need to get done now when they want to buy 10, 25, 50, 100,000 calls. And so they don't care about doing the best option trade. They care about getting their trade done. So what we do in Delta Strike is we basically let the banks do the research on what stocks are going to go up and down, and then we just trade the better option than them. And it's worked out really, really, really well. And if you don't believe me, I will show you what our track record looks like right now. All right. Well, so here's what we've done since November 15th. 132%, minus 67, 90, 112, 120, 85, 146, 72, minus 100, minus 100, 126%, 76%, 110, 53, 70, 66%, 225%, minus 75%, plus 131%,
Very
And if I
nice.
go back, it looks pretty darn good, kind of across the board.
Lots of green.
If you like
Lots
to win,
of green and lots of triple digits there. And so
pretty nice.
what I want you to do is join Delta Strike, and they're putting the link in the chat here. And we're offering a really special price, and you can also join me and Andrew and Licia and Hans and Frank at noon today for our dollar shot special. And we're going to dig in and go through some dollar shots. So we're going to get to Andrew's trading vehicle here in a second, but I want to show you real briefly how big money flow works. So this is Procore Tech. I had never heard of this stock in my life. But if you look at my returns, you'll notice in the last couple of weeks, I've got a sale of 131% in Procore Tech and a sale of 110% in Procore Tech in the last 2 weeks. And it all started with this paper flow from November 13th. We noticed in a stock that never trades that traders were jumping after the December 80 calls. And I want you to look at this. They started by subtly buying 4,100 of the 80 calls. Then they bought another 4,000 of the 80 calls. They bought the 80 calls for $160. So they paid $1, $1.55, $1.60, $1.20. So they're buying them up the board. They're doing this a little sneakier. They're trying to kind of slowly volume weighted average price buy these. They actually would have been better off trying to block trade it. This, again, these guys are not experts on execution. They're experts on knowing what a stock is going to go up or down, not on price efficiency. They're sloppy, but they're right way more often than they're wrong, especially on names like Procore Tech that you and I have never heard of. So
I see the stock went from
we look
68.
at these calls.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
excited
no, you're
looking
right.
at the chart.
So
It went
we're
from
looking-
68 to 84. Huh.
Yeah, so it was down, it started to rally post earnings. You would think the move was done after this move, right? It gets a nice earnings pop. There's no news coming out on this thing. Why is someone buying 20,000 December 80 calls post earnings in Procore Tech after it just ran from 62 to 70?
Right.
It's inexplicable, except these guys know. So what do I do? I know how to trade. I know the better trade than these guys. I go out and buy the January 80 calls. They go from $2. So we bought those on the 13th. We sold them on the 26th.
Very nice.
At $4.20. And then I looked and said, they're still long these calls. So I rolled into a second trade. So I just took a little bit of my found money on my 110%. And I just closed that at 131% on Thursday. And I may be looking to get back into this one again. Generally speaking, as long as this smart paper that rode this, and paper is the word I use to describe institutional flow. That's what we call a paper. And I don't know where it came from. Maybe because the tickets we used to use, now everything's electronic. The tickets we used to use are paper.
The floor was covered with paper.
Yeah. Back in the day. The floor was covered with paper. But I mean, this move, there was no news to drive this, Licia.
I still don't see any news.
This is all. There's none. It's all just price action.
So, which is amazing because it sounds like it has room to run because the news still hasn't come out yet.
I know. And here's another one that we're kind of interested in. FTRE. Out of nowhere, I never heard of the stock. And traders are buying up all kinds of the 25 and 30 calls in this thing. And you know that they're excited about it. I'm going to get off the stock. We bought our calls on the 2nd. Look at what's happened to the implied volatility since we bought our calls. So the implied volatility, remember, I was talking about the VIX. It's the cost of the options. I'm sorry, we bought on the 3rd. The vol was 60. It's now 95. The stock hasn't done anything.
Wow. So other people have seen it and are hopping in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So this is what we do in Delta Strike, and then add in the fact that we're going to be doing dollar shots. Are you excited about dollar shots today? I am.
I am. I have my list all ready to go. I'm super excited.
Well, you're not just the queen of the candles. You are the cheap option expert.
That's true.
Right?
That's true. That's my specialty.
I mean, it is your specialty. And, so people get a little bit of, they get a little bonus Licia. The reason why we call her her services option shopper is because she is always out finding deals on options.
That's right.
It's true.
So she's buying Louis Vuitton at Marc Jacobs prices, if you will.
I told you that's why I got dressed up today.
Yeah.
This is our first ever dollar shots. I'm kind of this is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Excited. Yeah. Like you're going out.
It's kind of what I feel like I'm doing. We're kind of going out to shop in the market. So
but yeah, you don't have to leave your rock, Andrew.
I don't have to leave my rock, and I get to shop with Licia, which is actually a double bonus because she's like, you can't buy that one. Don't buy that one.
Yeah.
I like that one. I like that one better. I'm like, okay.
All right. So we are Andrew, I just asked Licia about how excited she is for dollar shots. And folks, I'm sorry about the camera thing. This is weird. We never have issues on my end, but for some reason, something's funky on the way this is streaming. But how excited are you for dollar shots today, Andrew?
I've been excited all week. So we've been talking about it in a couple of services. So, and now we kind of have like the situation is setting up nicely. Now the non-farm payroll is out. Vol is dropping. Bitcoin has hit 100,000. Like all our little markers kind of coming into play. And now everybody's looking at, okay, what stocks have not made all-time highs into the end of the year? Because you get that, fund managers are chasing. The vols are now, like you said, and when you see some of the charts when it's time for my, trading vehicle, you will be surprised at how incredibly low these vols are and how much the stocks are still moving. So, part of making money trading options, the less you pay when they move, the more you make. So it's easier to make some bucks on cheap options, especially with some bigger moving stocks. So it should be a great time for people that are not used to trading like this or looking at things like this. But you have a lot of shoppers that are ready to go.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Now, if the one thing we have to worry about is if we do too many dollar shots, We may not be able to drive ourselves home,
That's
but the
true.
good news is there is a way for us to get home. We can, of course, call Andrew's trading vehicle. In this segment, Andrew will walk us through how he is viewing, how he's going to be looking at cheap options today in dollar shots, and of course, it's our favorite vehicle. So Licia and I are going to go refresh our coffee.
Refresh your coffee, jump in a cab or get a cab ready. So what I want to give you is sort of a basic outline where, when you're trading as opposed to investing, trading is more repeatable patterns, things you see that you've seen before again and again and again. So as a floor trader, I just got exposed to a lot of things for, a long amount of time. So one of them was when options get relatively inexpensive. So one thing volatility is good at is giving you a general idea how much you're paying. But what it does is, remember, that's a day-to-day move. And when a stock just kind of goes up a little, up a little, up a little, up a little, volatility isn't necessarily the best pricer because it's not really giving you the whole story. So the lower volatility gets, basically, the less the option price is. But this very low volatility, this is Amazon. This is 30-day volatility here. If you see down here, option prices about the lowest they've been in here. I'll go to, that's the last 3 months. But if I look last year, okay, very, very, very low coming into the end of the year. But what I want you to notice is like straight up stock. Straight up stock. Let's look at Google. Again, you have all of a sudden, where are the investors in Google? Wait a minute, like there's still room. I could still, funds, I could still buy this stock and still have some performance into the end of the year. Option prices, like rock bottom prices. So this is what the opportunity is. You have a relatively low option cost into what we call extended 1 to 2 week moves, which just happens to be, the orange Santa Claus rally squared that we have right now. So normally I would say, well, I'm just not going to buy a bunch of options for no reason. The reason now is we have some fund managers chasing performance here at the end of the year. We have a very strong market. We have big tech. Some big tech stocks are still not near their highs of the year. The tendency for stocks to rally, Santa Claus, into the end of the year. These are all very strong reasons to go buy some calls. And when you see this many, I think NVIDIA too was pretty darn low. Like NVIDIA is zero, basically. So now during Delta Strike, what we will do, and the things that Licia and Mark are very good at, are picking options that have high potential but relatively low decay. So they're not just decaying away like crazy. So there's a little bit of art to go with the science and the type of options you pick, but you can see 30-day option prices right now are literally in the bottom basement. NVIDIA, again, pretty close to all-time highs. Can it get there by the end of the year? I think so. I think a lot of big tech will get to at least somewhere close to their highs. So we have NVIDIA, Amazon, Google, and let's look at just Microsoft to just cap off the top. Again, Microsoft up, $30-40 in the last 5 days. Incredible strength. Why? Why is it rallying? Well, you know what? It's still not at 470 yet. I mean, you can come up with any reason you want, but real simply is fund managers chasing performance. You have very low option prices, insanely low option prices, really considering the market's at all-time highs. VIX is now trending downward solidly, especially after the NonFarm payroll number. It is an excellent opportunity to ride, let's just call it the orange Santa rally into Santa squared into the end of the year. And that is my trading vehicle. But if you really want to trade it, sign up for Delta Strike today. We'll have multiple trades on. Mark, Licia, and I do all of our own trades in the room. So you want to see somebody trading their own stuff, pop on in. And with that, the trading vehicle, I believe we've got everybody home, hopefully safely from our, we haven't had our dollar shots yet, but at least the Uber is ready and willing to take us where we need to go. So there we go.
All right.
I like the orange Santa. It's funny.
The
orange Santa.
Make Christmas great again. So, the last piece I want to talk about is there are, you heard me talk about this conflicts or this confluence of the Santa Squared rally, the orange Santa rally, and vol being really cheap. And there is a difference. There are options that are cheap that cost a lot of money. There are options that are expensive that don't cost a lot of money. And then there are options that are cheap that also don't cost a lot of money. So let me kind of show you an example of what I mean.
I'd really like to see this example, by the way.
Yeah.
Because it's going to make my job easier at 12 o'clock.
Well, it's dollar-wise versus it's your risk-reward, right?
Yeah.
It's your risk-reward.
So, let's look at a name like Amazon. Amazon implied volatility. This is the Amazon implied volatility over the last 3 months. It's sitting at its lows. If you go to the December calls, they're still the at the money call is, these have 2 weeks, they're $4. Not overly expensive, but still like $4. That's $400. You go to a name like, some meme name like AMC or
GME.
Yeah, or GME. AMC is trading $4.80, right? The December $5 calls are 50 cents. But look at how expensive the implied volatility is. 90%. Those options, yeah, they're 50 cents. It's more than 10% of the cost of the stock.
And they rot fast.
Right.
Exactly.
But then you have this,
not moving, those are going to deteriorate.
Right. But then you can have this confluence of incredibly inexpensive options and low implied volatility. And, we can find some of those in names like, and this is where I love I actually have a little scanner for this, folks. Where we can find names that have really low implied volatilities and the options are also really inexpensive. So like Google. I mean, look, Google, the implied vol is all the way down to 21.
Crazy
Microsoft vol is at 16. Procter and Gamble. Procter and Gamble vol is 13. J&J 14. So look at J&J options. J&J is trading $149. And you can buy the 150 call in December for less than $1.90. And you're saying, and look at the moves this thing can make. This thing was $155 3 days ago. Procter & Gamble, they'll sell it's $175. You can buy the 177 call for like $1.60. This thing was $180 3 days ago. It's incredible how when you can find really low vol on really good stocks. So I'm not saying that these are options I want to buy. You're going to have to be a member of Delta Strike because, frankly, I don't really like either of the ones I just showed you. I maybe showed you those on purpose.
Right. Is it possible, Mark, that there's too many dollar shots and we're going to need to take 3 Ubers from Delta Strike today?
No, I mean, I don't want to buy. I frankly, I'm not sure I want to buy a call on Procter & Gamble and J&J into the end of the year. Right. Certainly not J&J. But my point is that you can find really inexpensive options that also don't cost a lot. And that's what we're doing on Dollar Shots. And that's why you want to join Delta Strike. You get that amazing ability of me, to go through paper, professional, bank-driven, large block money flow, find out what they're doing. I do the investigation for you. And then I find the best way to trade it. And you've seen the results. I think the results kind of speak for themselves.
They do.
Sure do.
And on top of that, we're doing this Dollar Shots today. And you're going to get a minimum of 5 ideas that we think could go up 100, 200, maybe 300% between now and the end of the year. So if you haven't joined Delta Strike, I would invite you to click the link above you. Or if you're already an Option Pit member, give my team a call, 888-872-3301, or email us support@optionpit.com. All right, guys. As we speak, futures I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Futures are currently up about 8 points. We're bumping up against 6,100 again. NASDAQ futures are up about 28, trading about 21,500. And VIX futures are off 25 cents. VIX futures are getting slammed. What are you thinking for the rest of the day? Start with Andrew.
I'm going to stay up a little
start with
bit.
Licia.
We're up. I say we're not going to move much, up a little bit, up like 25 or 30 at the most today.
All right, Andrew.
6,100 SPX. That's like it's too close. It's like 100,000 Bitcoin. It's ridiculous. And then VIX probably 1285, 1280, something like that.
All right. We have seen S&P future VIX fail. We've seen S&P futures VIX fail. The S&P futures fail 6,100 2 occasions. They don't fail this time. There's a real chance that we see the market really melt up today. At the S&P 500 closed at 66,075.11 yesterday. I'm with Andrew. I think today is the day that we close with a cleanly above 6,100. All right, folks. We're up against it. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your Friday and a great trading day. Once again, we're here every Friday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. So for Andrew T. Giovinazzi, the Viking of Volatility, and of course, Licia J. Leslie, the Queen of the Candles, I am Mark Sebastian. I am your only option. This was Option Pit Live. Have a good one.
You know how the financial world goes. Here comes the buzzkill. Please make sure to take some time to read this boring disclaimer. We will owe you one.